Dear friends, I had marked on the calendar this hour for guided meditation, but I would like to also take some minutes at the beginning to speak in a little more discursive way about meditation as it connects with the theme of this daylong. It says in the sutta that one might develop a basic kind of right view and losing one's superstitious attitudes, develop loving kindness and the liberation of the heart through radiating loving kindness in all directions without any limitations whatsoever. And then having purified one's sila and cultivated loving kindness and the other Brahma viharas, the other divine abidings, one would come to a place of comfort and ease, knowing that in effect, you're dwelling in a heavenly realm. And if you were to die just at that moment, you would be bound for a good destination. And so with that sense of safety then is sort of compounding and strengthening that sense of ease and stability. Then the sutta says, based on that, one could abandon the 5 hindrances, the afflictive states of mind, and enter into samadhi. While practicing samadhi or tranquil meditation, or else on emerging from samadhi, one would experience yatha bhuta jnana dasana, seeing, knowing and seeing reality, or knowing and seeing reality as it has become. And from that knowing and seeing, then the nibbida, the disenchantment, arises. So the theme that I proposed for this daylong was how to be disenchanted with suffering. And that will be the practice moment where it's possible to be disenchanted with suffering. So you can see that one has already gone through a lot of steps along the way with developing right view, cultivating the Brahma viharas, getting real with one's ethics, one's sila, abandoning the hindrances, developing samadhi or developing tranquil meditation. And from that, having the penetrating insight into how it is. That would be seeing the 3 marks of existence, seeing all conditioned things as impermanent and unsatisfactory. Seeing that all dhammas, including the unconditioned, including nibbana, that everything that can be apprehended by the mind is without self. Long before we come to this kind of liberation, there is a long process that can be not necessarily so blissful, can be actually challenging and taking a lot of courage and determination to sustain. And that is looking in a very objective way about how the individual keeps on choosing to perpetuate dukkha, how we keep on choosing to create a separate self and to be resisting that insight into the way things really are, or you could say the way things have become what they are. The word is a bhuta, which is participle of to become. So it has a meaning of truthfulness. Like if I swear in a Bible that I'm going to tell the truth, then I would be promising that I'm going to speak yatha bhuta. I'm going to speak in accordance with reality. In another sense, since the Buddha is like a process, it's not something that's reified into a self, but instead it's a pointer pointing to an ever-flowing process. So then the reality that we see is not some fixed thing, something that's ever-flowing. I inquired with Bhikkhu and Ayya whether there was a particular meditation format, a meditation theme, or a method of meditation that is most matching with the Nibbana sermons. And he encouraged us to consider that it's not, that these teachings are not necessarily prescribing one method or another, that one can do whatever method of meditation is the most fruitful, the one that one is able to do. But then again, in a reading, there was a place where Venerable Jnanananda is speaking about being aware of the elements of name and form. He's talking about how there's this circular interaction between consciousness and name and form.
Excuse me, Ayya, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to
is,
interrupt, but there you have two tracks going.
Speaking about
like you're speaking, and then what you just said
being aware
is
of the
repeating.
elements. Thank you. I might need technical help. I don't know why this is happening. I'm live on YouTube.
Ayya, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there you have two tracks going.
Speaking about
like you're speaking, and then what you just said
being aware
is
of
repeating.
the elements. Yes, I can hear you, and I'm trying to get the tech to help me to solve this problem.
Do you have the YouTube channel open?
I don't think so. No.
You don't have YouTube open. You don't have Restream open. Microphone.
She's aware that of the problem.
Yes, I can hear.
I mean, you can try leaving the meeting and coming in again or something. I just don't know.
I'm going to leave the meeting for a second and come back without ending the meeting. Okay, now I would like to get feedback on whether the echo is still happening or not. Okay, others not having a problem, maybe something on Anana's end. I think we're okay now.
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay,
okay.
so I'm going to proceed then. I'm talking about something that was not really in the Nibbana sermons, but it was in Bhikkhu Analayo's commentary. And he said, if you think of name and form and the power of naming, how we experience anything at all and give it a name, what the power of that is. The analogy is given to a small child who is given a rubber ball. The infant has never seen a rubber ball before. So they look at it, they squeeze it, they taste it, they smell it, they roll it on the ground, and finally come to recognize it as a plaything. And then they may then choose to play with it or something else like that. And so the elements, the mental elements of our experience that are qualified as nama can be broken down that way. Analayo's idea is that the monks at that vihara were practicing in the Mahasi method, where they were encouraged to do the noting technique and to be observing all of the experiences of the body in a very simplified way, almost like in a childlike way, very, very simple, saying, this is sitting, this is touching, this is hearing, this is tasting. And to recognize and come into a direct experience through that, noting things at a simple level. So in that way, naming our nama in nama rupa is not something that's abstract and conceptual, like I have learned different ideas, and then I can, if I've learned my catechism, then I can learn how to identify different things by giving them the proper names. I would know that that's a horse, and that's a dog, and that's a cat, and that's a ball, because I've learned a lot of conceptual names for things. That's not what nama is about from the perspective of practice. And what it's about is breaking down our experience and being as direct as we can in how we are coming to experience what we're directing our attention to. So then, one way to consider is to actually make a theme of meditation to be aware of name and form itself. So the components of name is called feeling, perception, intention, contact, and attention. So when you come to meditate, suppose you want to meditate on the breath. You bring your attention to the breath. And that is the factor of attention. As a result of directing awareness to the breath, then your knowing apparatus, could be primarily touch, comes to be in contact with the breath. You may have a certain intention towards what you're trying to do during this meditation. Say you want to experience the rise and fall of the breath and to stay continuous with that, and to, in a simple way, keep that connection alive, exploring the rise and fall of breath, and without losing the rise and fall of breath, to be fully aware about what that meditation is for you, how it's arising. So that's your intention. Now, it's possible that during a meditation you'll go for many minutes at a time in which the mind is willing to stay within the intention of meditation that you already created. And then you would just keep on noting, I'm paying attention to the breath. I'm in contact with the breath. I have the intention for this sustained practice. Keep noting it over and over again. Or it could happen that the mind drifts away from the breath, and you start to start some other kind of dialogue, remembering some project that you need to be working on, or some problem you have, or some show that you watched, or something else. And then the mind went away from its object and went to something else. So if that happened, there was an intention that came up to run away from the meditation object and to run away to something else. So just seeing it, just be honest, just see just what is actually happening. And then I'm taking these in reverse order in the list of the elements of nama or naming. The next factor is called perception or sanya. That would be recognizing the rise of breath, recognizing the rise and fall of breath. And it could be also, without losing awareness of the breath, also being able to recognize the other factors that are coming into play. And then the last one in the sequence I'm taking it is the feeling or the Vedana, the experience, the sensation, the bare awareness of the rise and fall of breath in this example. And that's the experience of the breath without all of the superstructure of the decorations of the how we're perceiving it, what our intention is towards it, what our thoughts are about it, anything else but just the minimum bare experience of breathing. And so then if you were trying to do a meditation on Namarupa, you could choose a theme of meditation and do the basic practice of meditation as you have learned it, as you know how to do it. And have the inclination to be on the lookout to see whether you notice any of these factors of naming are present. So Namarupa has got two sides, name and form. The form side is defined in terms of the primary elements of form, which is the earth element, water element, fire element, and air element. So you might notice the breath as having in this case, having an air quality because of the constant motion of the rise and fall of breath. Or you could notice the in-breath is more cool and the out-breath is more warm. So that's seeing the fire element in the materiality of the breath. Or you could notice the in-breath is more dry and the out-breath is more humid, and that would be experiencing the water element in the breath. You could notice that the physical part of the diaphragm or the cavity of the chest is moving with the rise and fall of breath, and then you would see that the earth element is involved in the breath. And doing all of these things, I just want to encourage not to be too domineering in trying to make your meditation like you're a schoolmaster with a stick who's saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, exerting a lot of force onto the meditation. Instead, it's much more subtle than that. I can give a metaphor from my own experience about how I think this is supposed to work. This will be one of the most important, looking in hindsight, one of the most important 30 minutes of my entire life. Once I was hiking in a section of Maine that was called the 100-mile wilderness. and was separated from my hiking partner, so I was alone by myself. I came to a place and I sat down to rest. The rocks were covered in this very deep, dense blanket of moss, and it was quite foggy and wet. Everything was really saturated and wet, and it was cold. And the experience I had was that all of the elements of that ecosystem, the earth, the water, the rocks, the moss, the trees, and whatever insects or birds or creatures were around there, that all of them were perfectly adapted and harmonious to that environment. And that I, on the other hand, was a visitor to that environment. The environment was really not comfortable for me. I would not be able to sit on that rock, for 12 months through all kinds of weather. Just being with that environment. And also that I don't have barely any control over that environment. That I'm just going to be there for a very fleeting half hour, and then I'll go on my way, and that all of the things there will just continue in the balance of nature that existed in that spot. So I had no temptation to try to exert my willpower on the forest, saying, let the forest be this, let the forest be that. I couldn't sit there and say, let the forest be dry, let the forest be wet, let the forest be warm, let the forest be cold. I had the strong sense of how, like this personality, that my encounter was so brief, so transient, so fleeting. And then now, I've reflected many, many times on this experience. That was a long time ago. That was in 2001. And I've thought about it many times. It seems to me that when you sit, it's like the mind or the awareness is visiting a body that doesn't belong to us. The body just is what it is and does what it does. The body has its own ecosystem. It has its own way of rising and falling, its own way of responding to things. And even the factors of the mind, all of these factors of nama rupa, the feeling, perception, intention, contact, and attention, all of those things were all factors of mentality long before I knew their names, long before I came on the scene, long before I came to practice meditation. And that these factors in the stream of humanity, or the stream of my own bundle of existence flowing on through time, that it's just a moment of time. Everything really is in harmony according to causes and conditions. It's just when I have this false perception of a separate self that all of a sudden I become like not comfortable with reality as it is, not willing to stay with reality as it is. And this is where the hindrances may arise, different tendencies, the mind not being able to stay open and stay present, but the mind having different ways of diverting, sliding away or running away from the experience. So I'd like to invite you to notice, practice meditation. I think the breath is a kind of a universal method. I may guide you to start that, but you can do whatever format of meditation you're working with right now. And try to just be aware of these factors of mentality and materiality, these factors of nama-rupa, to experience nama-rupa in a really simple way. You're not the boss. You're more like a child. You're just trying to find out, what is it? What is it right now? So let's sit together in silent meditation for a while. Coming to an upright and balanced posture. Aware of the physical body. Feeling the space occupied by the body. Feeling the weight of the body pressing on the cushion or the feet on the floor. Just aware of what is arising in the present moment, in the here and now, especially the sensations on the body. Keeping the upright posture with the seat planted on the cushion, like a tree planted on the earth and reaching up to the sky. And without losing that upright posture, making the body relaxed, relaxing the face, dropping the shoulders, making the belly soft. If anything tight or agitated or painful is coming up any place in the body, relaxing awareness around that. Holding an open field of awareness for any experience of the physical body, whatever arises to our awareness. And if the rise and fall of the breath is noticeable, bringing awareness to that. Letting our attention to rest on the rise and fall of the breath. Thank you for joining for this little meditation, and please continue your meditation practice throughout the day. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to turn off the Facebook, the YouTube stream. If anybody wants to stay after for a few minutes for questions, you can do that.